Hello, everybody. My name is Ray. Welcome to the Evangelical Dark Web. Today, we'll be talking about J.D. Greear and his relationship with Kevin Ezell. Now, Kevin Ezell is the head of the North American Mission Board, and I would argue he is one of the most powerful figures in the Southern Baptist Convention. And J.D. Greear is the three-term president of the Southern Baptist Convention. And I want to talk about some of the corruption in the North American Mission Board. So I wrote an article about this the other day, and if we take a deeper dive into that article, what I'm basically talking about, the article is titled, Did Kevin Ezell Bribe J.D. Greear? The North American Mission Board is notoriously corrupt on several fronts, in addition to over a decade of financial mismanagement. I kind of point that out with that little chart there below. Kevin Ezell's ambition to take on state conventions, and you saw this with how the North American Mission Board was going to war with Randy Adams, and now Randy Adams is one of the candidates for president of the Southern Baptist Convention. And I believe part of that reasoning was retaliation for running for president, especially on reforming institutions like the North American Mission Board. So that was retaliatory. And funding egalitarians like Kevin Ezell and the North American Mission Board have been caught with the pants down several times because they have funded egalitarians and churches that would just basically take the money and run with no real commitment to staying within the Southern Baptist Convention and within its oversight of local conventions and stuff like that. And there's a massive real estate scheme going on. I don't know if you're familiar with the story of Ray Kroc and McDonald's. If you aren't, I'd watch the movie Founders. That's a pretty solid movie. And basically, the story is like, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but McDonald's is not in the business of selling burgers. They're in the business of real estate. That is the business that McDonald's is in. They are a real estate company. So they buy up real estate, and then, the burgers basically function as rent. They're getting rental revenue. And that's basically the real business model of McDonald's, is that they're a real estate company. And that's how Ray Kroc built the McDonald's Corporation, real estate, because he could not make money selling franchises, at least according to the movie. So he had to basically get the franchisees, he basically had to buy land and then get the franchisees to lease it from him. And that's the model. So there's a lot of money to make in real estate. And what we're seeing with the North American Mission Board is that they are making some money in real estate, or they're heavily invested in real estate. And it's very shady, the distribution of these real estate investments. The real estate investments are highly tied to megachurch pastors or celebrity pastors. They're also tied to certain church plants. Like, there is a huge disparity between the churches that receive a lot and churches that receive a little. As you can see here, the church planting budget has increased like 300+% over the course of between 2009 and 2018, but the number of church plants have declined. Why is this? Like, how could this happen when the cost per church plant has increased 531% over the course of a decade? That's pretty weird, don't you think? That all these church plants are becoming more expensive. Like, 531% is way beyond the inflation rate, and we've certainly seen a lot of inflation since 2009. And part of the reason is because the North American Mission Board is investing heavily in real estate, and it's really shady. Kevin Ezell is kind of like Ray Kroc here, and I don't think he has the best interest of Southern Baptists or the church in mind. And one of the beneficiaries of this real estate scheme is J.D. Greear and the Summit Church in North Carolina. They're scattered throughout North Carolina. So we have two properties here that are, and this data comes from the Reform NAM Now. This is an organization that wants to reform the North American Mission Board, and they've done tremendous reporting on the corruption within. And one of their major data layouts was the real estate scams, or not scam, but like the scheme. Like there's a scheme here, and this is data from the organization. This is not my own data. And we see that there are two properties in Morrisville, North Carolina. And let me show you. Morrisville, North Carolina is right here. As you can see, there's not really a Summit Church in Morrisville, North Carolina. And, this is a metropolitan area. But I imagine the distance, that's not a... People living in Morrisville probably not the likeliest to be heading downtown for church or across down to Apex. Morrisville looks like a town in and of itself, even though that these towns are probably very blended together because of urban sprawl. But I digress. So we see two properties, one purchased at $260,000 and another purchased at $250,000. And you see, it is worth noting that it seems like they paid below the median household price, which would have been around the low 300,000 mark. But easily, if they wanted to offload these houses 7 years later or 5 years later, they would make a substantial gain. The current household median list price is $569,900, and so easily they could make at least $300,000 on each of those houses. And I'm just lowballing it because I don't know the inflation of that area, and I'm not a real estate agent, but I think they could easily turn those houses over for a profit if they wanted to. But in the meantime, what's going on with these houses? These houses are being used for the benefit of J.D. Greear's Summit Church. So we see that this house, the one in Roundhouse Lane, is for the director of J.D. Greear's Summit Network. And it's worth noting, they note, Reform NAM Now notes that there is no Send City in North Carolina. So you got a few Send Cities, and Baltimore, which is used to be in my neck of the woods, is a Send City. And I've looked multiple times on the North American Mission Board to see the church plants in the Baltimore area, and they don't look like they're very extravagant. So when you talk about church plants that are not receiving all this 531% increase in cost in funds per plant, when you talk about churches that aren't receiving that increase, I'm thinking like the church plants near where I live that NAM takes credit for. They don't seem to be getting that real estate money, if you know what I'm saying. And let's see, if we look at this house in Mainline Station, this property is supposedly used at the direction of J.D. Greear's Summit Network. So J.D. Greear is controlling the usage of both of these properties. Doesn't that seem strange to you? The North American Mission Board should not be funding megachurch franchises. I don't think that should be a controversial point. A megachurch franchise should not, or cooperative program money should not be going to a megachurch so they can open up a franchise church. That is not what church planning funds should go to. They should go towards a new church, a new pastor, or an old pastor that's trying to start a new church. That's what that money should be going to. It should not be used to benefit a megachurch and their operations. That is corrupt. Now, this took place in 2016, these two purchases. And J.D. Greear would become president of the Southern Baptist Convention in 2018. So in 2018, J.D. Greear would become president of the Southern Baptist Convention. He would be reelected in 2019, and he would take an illegal term in 2020, using COVID lockdowns as an excuse. Why do I call this a bribe? Or why would anyone call this a bribe? Now, it's very clear that Kevin Ezell, from the data that Reform NAM Now brought forth, it's very clear that Kevin Ezell is courting favor with celebrity pastors. And J.D. Greear has certainly been a celebrity pastor for a long while. That's very clear. Now, J.D. Greer's prominence in Southern Baptist politics was on the up and up. And I'm sure Kevin Ezell helped that grow. So the main job of the president of the Southern Baptist Convention is to make committee appointments, and those committees select the leaders of the various organizations, like the seminaries, like the North American Mission Board that Kevin Ezell is the head of, the International Mission Board, and all the other places. So that's the main job of the Southern Baptist president. J.D. Greear has not made an appointment to the North American Mission Board that could ever be considered hostile to Kevin Ezell. In other words, Kevin Ezell, through grooming J.D. Greear by giving him these luscious properties for his church to use, in turn, after receiving the scepter, has not made any appointments that would change the trajectory of the North American Mission Board to remove an ineffective, corrupt leader like Kevin Ezell from control of a lot of money. That could be considered bribe. At the minimum, it is a sordid way of courting favor. And that's unacceptable. It's unacceptable that Kevin Ezell can give J.D. Greer's church, mega church, money in the form of properties, real estate, for his use, not for church planning use, for Summit Church's use. And then when J.D. Greear becomes president, obviously makes appointments that are favorable to Kevin Ezell. Now, J.D. Greear and Kevin Ezell are good buddies. They are friends. They work together. And specifically, as far as topics I've covered on Evangelical Dark Web, they conspired to shove a woke pastor on FBC Naples, Florida, First Baptist Church in Naples, Florida. That was a big story in late 2019. There was a documentary about that. I covered that documentary. I encourage you to watch my review of the documentary and also watch the documentary itself, the story of First Baptist Church, Naples, Florida. J.D. Greear and Kevin Ezell pushed this woke pastor on that church, and that church foiled their plan, thankfully, but that was a short-term victory because that church I had not heard very, they haven't really won that war, if you know what I mean. So they stopped that woke pastor that Kevin Ezell and J.D. Greear wanted to push on them, but they haven't quite fixed all the other issues with that church. So they have a history of working together, making, with their own operation of cronyism. So what's the story that I'm trying to tell? And the story that I'm trying to tell, or what I want you to get out of this, is just because J.D. Greear is the president of the Southern Baptist Convention does not mean he's the most powerful man. It does not mean he's the alpha in the relationship. That is not what's going on here. Or Kevin Ezell is the alpha in this relationship. He has the money. He knows people because, he's involved with church plants. So he has all these people that he's growing up. He's grooming all these people up. And some of them will be president of the Southern Baptist Convention someday. And they will keep him in power. And that is the game of Kevin Ezell. That will keep him in control of all these funds. And I'm sure he makes a 6-figure salary for all this sordid gain. So Kevin Ezell is more powerful than J.D. Greear. And I don't think it's close. I don't really think it's debatable. The real debate is who has more power between Kevin Ezell and Al Mohler. That's the Baptist Biumvirate. Those two. And I'll talk more about that in a future video. My name is Ray. This is the Evangelical Dark Web. If you like this kind of content, also subscribe to the channel, evangelicaldarkweb.org. And comment below what you think about what I think. Let me know who you think is worse if you have a different opinion. J.D. Greear or Kevin Ezell. Let me know who you think is worse. And have a blessed day, and I will catch you on the next one.